Now, the recent turmoil in Lebanon and Syria, marked by Israel's decisive blow to Hezbollah and the toppling of Bashar al-Assad's brutal regime in Syria, have dramatically reshaped the Middle East as well as the power players in the region. While some hope that dismantling Iran's so-called axis of resistance and Russia's influence in the region waning will usher in peace, it's more likely that regional powers will now jostle to fill the void left by Iran and its allies. The Assad regime's collapse is a significant defeat for Assad's chief supporters in Russia and Iran, potentially costing Russia its strategic military bases and severing Iran's land corridor to Lebanon. However, the triumphant scenes following Assad fleeing to Russia don't capture the full picture here. While we may think Israel is the major reason for this shift in regional power, and they did play a major part, Turkey, a longtime backer of anti-Assad forces like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or HTS, have played a crucial role in this outcome. Turkey's support has been instrumental in HTS's battlefield successes, effectively positioning Turkey as the dominant external power in Syria, surpassing Russia and Iran, as well as undermining any influence China may have temporarily had with any kind of weak deals they brokered. If you remember, a couple of years back, people were talking about China overtaking the U.S. as the dominant player in the Middle East. Well, that has clearly not happened, and this undermining of Russia and Iran is clearly a good thing for the U.S. as Turkey aligns more with the U.S. than it does with Russia. Now, Turkey's influence may extend beyond Syria, potentially reaching into Lebanon and Iraq as Iran's foothold weakens. Tehran views Turkey as a rival, encroaching on its traditional spheres of influences. Tehran views Turkey as a rival, encroaching on its traditional spheres of influence in the Middle East and the Caucasus. Tehran views Turkey as a rival, encroaching on its traditional spheres of influence in the Middle East and the Caucasus. Now, when I talk about the Caucasus, I'm talking about Turkey's support for Azerbaijan, especially during the 2023 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Especially during the 2023 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, which has already marginalized Iran in the Caucasus. And it also exposed the weakness the Russians have in their, and it also exposed the weakness in the Russian-led Collective Security Treaty Organization, as they did not come to Armenia's aid in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran fears the resurgence of something we haven't heard in Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran is fearing the resurgence of an organization we haven't heard of in over a century. Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran is fearing a resurgence of an organization that we haven't heard. Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran is fearing the resurgence of an organization. Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran is fearing the resurgence of someone. Now, with Turkey's ascendancy in Syria, Iran is fearing the resurgence of a group we haven't heard from in over a century, and that is the Ottoman Empire. And while I don't think they have the capability to rebuild the entire empire, the specter of regional Ottoman-era dominance in regions. The specter of regional Ottoman-era dominance in places where Iran once held influence is entirely possible. Ironically, Israel, despite celebrating the erosion of Iran's presence in Syria and Lebanon, faces new challenges with Turkey. An HTS-led government in Damascus, backed by Turkey, is unlikely to accept Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights and may adopt a more assertive stance on Palestinian issues, given its organic Sunni. Ironically, Israel, despite celebrating the erosion of Iran's presence in the sea. Ironically, Israel, despite celebrating the erosion of Iran's presence in Syria and Lebanon, despite celebrating the erosion of Iran's presence in Syria and Lebanon, now face new challenges. An HTS-led government in Damascus, backed by Turkey, is unlikely to accept Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights, and they probably will adopt a more assertive stance on Palestinian issues, given their organic Arab connections, given their organic Sunni Arab connections. Now, this development could. Now, this means that one adversarial presence. Now, this means for Israel, one adversarial presence could just be replaced with another, and it could be replaced with one that is potentially more ideologically aligned against Israel's interest. Nonetheless, Turkey and Israel both fall under the U.S. sphere of influence, so there is more room to grow the relationship here. Nonetheless, Turkey and Israel both fall under the U.S. sphere of influence, so there is more room to grow the relationship here. For Arab states, HTS's victory in Syria resurrects the specter of the Arab Spring, which they believed had been quashed. These uprisings, which initially advocated for democracy, were unfortunately co-opted by Islamist movements. Turkey's President Erdogan embraced these uprisings, envisioning a region reflecting his model of Muslim democracy. Now, let's be real, Turkey is not exactly the bastion of democracy on the globe, but it is far, far better than Iran, Assad-led Syria, and even Russia. HTS's triumph, facilitated by Turkey, signals a revival of political Islam, which is unsettling to authoritarian Arab regimes and to authoritarian regimes around the globe, as they mostly fought to suppress such movements. The ascent of Turkey invariably triggers realignments and counter-strategies. Syria's future stability hinges on establishing a robust state focused on reconstruction. However, if Syria becomes a battleground for regional rivalries, it risks descending into chaos akin to Libya, where external interventions have fragmented the nation and has prolonged its suffering. In summary, while Assad's removal thankfully ended a dark chapter of tyranny, it opened up a complex and potentially volatile era in the Middle East, with Turkey's growing influence introducing new dynamics and challenges for other regional actors, including Israel.